your channel, you're used to this stuff. It's like, yeah, they came and they talked to me and they said all these things and they were different. Like, no, this is not
You're
normal.
like, that's too
No,
fast.
no,
We need
no.
to
Let's go
rewind
back.
it.
Walk me through it.
Welcome to the Angelic Frequency podcast. We are your hosts, Cristina Aroche.
And Luisa Velez. And this week we had a wonderful conversation about Seraphim Angels. But also, it was so interesting because we had the opportunity to talk about the team, right? They're part of your personal angels and part of a team of beings that are here with you. So, we're going to get into that. And overall, the soul remembrance process and how they're here to support you in that journey. Super interesting. We can't wait for you to hear.
All right, we're back with another amazing conversation, I think, ahead of us. I know we always get into these being like, we know what we're going to talk about, but I also feel like the angels are always like, but you'll see
They
what we're really going to talk about,
Yeah, exactly. We have a plan, we promise, but this goes however they want it to go. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting. I love it.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we mentioned in our previous episode, I think maybe we've already talked about these a little bit in a couple of episodes, maybe
Yeah.
even, just very briefly mentioned Seraphim Angels. And I remember specifically because this part stood out to me before when I was kind of like looking over our episode from the previous weeks, where you had mentioned with seraphim how in kind of like traditional sense or in the Bible or wherever it is that
Mhm.
they have that it's depicted as this, I don't even know, like
The weirdest
weird
thing. Eyes with wings, with fire, like
crazy stuff, crazy stuff.
crazy stuff. Like, what
Yes.
is that? Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yes. And that's just not the case. It's just not the case of how they actually are or how they're here to even support us. I'm not even sure what it says out there with like the Bible or other things of
Mhm.
how they're or what they do kind of a thing. I
Yeah.
think we need to go over and share with everyone the real truth
Yeah.
of the Seraphim Angels and how they're here to really support people, especially those of you who are healers, who are light workers, who are here to serve in this bigger calling or bigger mission, like knowing that there's a reason why you're here. Seraphim Angels are really great to support you with that. So I don't even know where to
Okay.
start. Where do we start?
Where we start? So, just out of curiosity, I just looked this up while we were talking. Six wings.
Oh, okay, six.
So, six. They fly and surround the divine throne. They cover their faces and feet, in reverence. And they sing praises all the time. That's so interesting. Like covering up. And yeah, it's interesting how in traditional depictions of them, they they have such a random role,
Yeah, yeah.
singing praises and okay, great.
Like, that's not helpful. No, I'm just kidding.
That's super helpful, but I'm sure it is. But I guess it was just more of a symbolic, like, how do I wrap my head around these being? And just, I'm guessing, old time humans just trying to do their best to come up with a description that matched that. But yeah, definitely, definitely creative.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. And my experience with how they even came through, because I think I've first of all mentioned this before of how I'm like on a mission to help people understand the truth around seraphim angels and angels in general and all of that. But I'm like, I was trying to think back of when they first stepped forward for me, like when I knew about them and then begin to understand how they're here to support us. And the memory that keeps coming up is that I was visiting my grandparents and I remember being like on my grandmother's bed. So this was, I think, back in 2017. Yeah, it was 2017. And I was sitting in my grandmother's bed and I think I was just like channeling or connecting with the archangels or whatever. And then these other angelic beings stepped forward, and there was three of them, and
Uh-huh.
I was like, you're not archangels. Like, I knew that they were angelic beings, but I knew that they were not archangels. I don't know how I knew
Okay.
that, but I just
Yeah.
knew it. Couldn't explain to you how I knew it, but I just knew it. And that's when they said the word seraphim, like seraphim angels. And
Oh,
maybe for me it was because I never actually had, it was only after the fact that I started to learn about this idea that people talk about them having six wings and eyes on their wings, or like whatever whatever is however they're described. So I didn't know that. Like, I didn't have a preconceived notion about them.
right.
So maybe that's why I was like so open to how they came through. But seraphim is the word that I kept hearing. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, seraphim angels, seraphim angels. And that's when they told me that they're here to support healers and light workers, and that they're personal angels, and like all this information. And I was like, oh, okay, like that makes sense. Like that really resonates with me. And then I don't remember at what point after that I was hearing about other definitions of seraphim angels, but I just was like, oh, like I don't know. I don't think so. Like this is the thing. And so that's when I started to actually, after the fact, like maybe months later, I started to slowly incorporate them into my like one-on-one calls and like my programs and all things like that, you know?
Okay. We need to stop there for a second. Let's
Yes.
go back. Your channel, you're used to this stuff. It's like, yeah, they came and they talked to me and they said all these things and they were different. Like, no, this is not
You're
normal.
like, that's too
No,
fast.
no,
We need
no.
to
Let's go
rewind
back. Walk me through it.
it.
So, okay, I have so many questions. So they came, but when you say they came forward, like, are they like, did they feel different? Did they look like bigger, different? Like, what did you see? What did you hear? Tell us everything.
I love that so much. So they reminded me of the same, it's similar but
How?
different. So
I
hard.
want
Like, can I just put you
descriptions.
in my brain right now so you can see what I'm seeing?
They told me, no, are you hearing voices? Are you seeing burning wings with eyes? What's happening?
So similar to how I see archangels, they came through more as these like things of light. Like, so the way that I see archangels is that it's more like these orbs of light that come through, kind of like bigger orbs of energy. So very similarly, that's how I
You're
saw.
physically seeing light outside of yourself.
Not
Or is
physically.
this like your mind's
I'm
eye?
seeing it in my mind's eye. So this is all in
Okay,
my mind's eye. Yeah.
good.
So
Uh-huh.
in my mind's eye, I don't know if we're really gonna go deep into describing, like, their energy felt a little bit more narrow, if that makes sense. Like, if you imagine archangels like this big round energy, theirs
Mhm.
felt more like this slim things of energy,
Okay.
like three of them standing side by side. And
Okay.
I could feel and I could sense that there was two male and one female. Like, I could sense like more masculine or feminine, which that
How?
part, I don't know how I can describe that to. It's just like a knowing. It's just like I just like feel it
Okay,
and
so
I
this
know
is
it.
intuition. This is a knowing that comes through, and
Yeah.
you know there's okay.
Yeah, I
You're
just
not
like
seeing
I
any different
see.
physical differences or anything, but you're
Right.
just
So I didn't see any like wings, so to speak. I didn't see
yeah.
even really like see faces that much, although I get like a bit like shadowy impression of kind of like, oh, like long hair, and like this is like masculine, like short hair.
Humanoid, like
But very, very like slight. It's very not even like, it's not like I'm seeing their eyes and their nose and like their mouth and all that. Like, there's not,
okay.
I don't really see that part. It just feels like that's just this energy, one female, two males, and they're standing in front of me. And the
Okay.
female had more of like a violet, purplish color. And then the
Mm-hmm.
males were more similar but different. Like, one was more of a blue tone and the other one was more of a green tone. But all of them had, like, almost like the pastel shade or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, more like pastel y, if that makes
Okay.
sense,
Okay.
but like in those tones. So blue, green, purpley. Um, yeah. So okay. So that's
They're
that. Next
glowing.
question.
Their energy.
They're light. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
you say talking again, are we hearing voices? Is this all happening in your mind? What's going on?
This is like, so usually when they're talking, I hear their voice in my head though. Like I'm not hearing it
But
as a
you hear a distinct other voice that is
yes,
not your internal
talking.
monologue. It's an actual, like,
Yes.
intrusive
Yeah,
voice.
there's yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I'm usually channel writing too to actually get a clear understanding of what's being said. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, and especially at that point, it was the summer of 2017, and my like big, we'll say, awakening to the angels happened at the end of 2016 and beginning of 2017 was when I started to teach about them online. So,
Mhm.
we'll say that was like 6 months into my journey of like being a
That's
spiritual
so
teacher.
fast.
Yeah, it is.
The confidence,
Yeah.
Christina. Just
I'll tell you, I wouldn't, if we went back to 2017, Christina, she'd probably be like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now.
but she did the thing
But she
anyways.
did the thing
That's a
anyway.
lot of confidence.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Great.
I
I
think
love it.
it's because when I think back to it, I think it's because there's a part of me that just really just like knew the truth. Like it just felt so true that it felt like there was no other way. Like I can't not do that, or I can't not share it, or I can't not, you know what I mean? So
And at this point, I guess also you just didn't have, I mean, it's on, like a switch turning on. So you're just seeing, hearing, and so the confidence comes also from the fact that you're actively talking to this
that I'm
being.
doing
They're
it.
telling you what to do, essentially.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. And I don't remember why, like I think maybe I was just doing my own meditation. Like I was just kind of doing my own kind of connection routine or practice. You know, meditating, journaling, channel writing was huge for me back then. I channel wrote a lot. Like that was one of my main ways that I would always really connect with them and feel their presence. And yeah, and then that happened and I was like, "Oh wow. Like
Okay.
that's it definitely blew my mind. I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Like this is different." And that was the first time that I think that was the first time. I can't
Okay.
remember now when I met Angel Celeste, but Angel Celeste was another angel, which we can talk about a different time, but another angelic being that came through for me who wasn't an archangel, but she came through like all of a sudden and I was just like, "Oh, you're different. Like who are
Yeah.
you? And what are you here to do? Like what do you
What
want?"
is it?
But
That's
anyway,
so
yeah.
interesting. We need to get into Celeste and the other, like, realms. That's a great episode, just realms and walking people through what that is. So back to Seraphim's personal angels. So they are part of your team. You have your guardian angels. If you're a healer type person, you'll have Seraphim angels. So that means some people have them, some people don't. Or they are not necessarily always with you like a guardian angel. They come into the picture at a point in your life, or are they here always?
It's more like they come into the picture at some point in your life. So it's when
Consistently, like through lifetimes? Like if you're a
yeah,
healer over and over again,
yes,
they'll come
yes.
in.
They
Oh,
are yours. Yeah. So they're consistently with you, but in terms of you feeling them and their active role in your life, it will only start once you reach a certain point on your soul's divine timeline that is related to you stepping into your calling. So, you know, I think many of us can relate. You know, we've all lived lives before our spiritual awakening. It's like, I think about my journey, like the Christina before our spiritual awakening, like she was living a certain life, you know, and it's like my Seraphim angels were not there
yeah.
with me. They weren't guiding me. They weren't really doing anything until that moment in
Hmm.
2017 because I had stepped into that calling. So that was kind of like the green light for them, I guess, is the way I like to think of it. Like green light's on. She's online.
She's ready. She's
She's ready
online. I
now.
love it.
You know, which, you know, that's obviously like a very specific example. I wouldn't say it's exactly, you know, 6 months into your journey, that's when you're going to meet your
That's when
Seraphim
they come
angels.
online. Yeah, yeah.
You know, but yeah, they're
And
really they're really there to support you in your development in terms of who you are as a healer or light worker, or essentially the way that I think when I say healer or light worker, to me it's someone who knows that they're here to support the evolution of consciousness. Like you know that you have some active role in helping humanity, like in some shape or form. You know what I
mhm.
mean? So that's what I mean when I say healer or light worker.
Okay. And so, what working with a guardian angel versus working with a seraphim angel or any other angelic being, like what, how do you work with your seraphim angels, or how should people work with their seraphim angels? I know inside the healer with it, the healer is a wonderful course that Christina offers. If you're curious, I highly recommend it. It's wonderful, changed my life. That's the plug. But inside the healer, we did a seraphim module, and within that, we had an activation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's was kind of the starting point of for me. But what should people do to establish that connection? And if you're curious, or if you feel like it's that time, or you want to establish that connection, what should you do, and how do you work with them after, like that?
Yeah, yeah. So the first step that I would say when it comes to establishing that connection is trusting that it's one of those things that you can't really force. You can't really force the, like, okay, like I'm gonna be a healer now, so now can you guys step forward? Like we have to honor the divine's plan and the divine's will when it comes to how the seraphim angels step in and when they're playing out their role. So what I mean by that is as a healer or someone who's on that path, the number one thing is for you to be in a place where you say, I'm open, I'm ready to connect with my seraphim angels as part of the divine's plan, divine will, divine timing. So whenever my seraphim angels are ready to step forward and connect and support me and kind of like help the next evolution or help the next level on the journey, then I'm open and I'm ready, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So that would be the first step that I would say. Number one is just having that intention. Then the second thing is to, like, as you are maybe actively developing your connection, or, you know, maybe you feel different angelic beings coming forward and things like that, the next step is to then, like, once you set the intention for seraphim angels to come through, trust how it's going to come through, because I feel like it'll come through different for different people. So, for example, for some, it might be in meditation, it might be during their channel writing, it might be in their dream, it might be in a course. Like if you've taken any courses with me, like sometimes that's the divine timing where it's kind of like, you know, if you chose to step into something, then that might be the pathway. Like it's not necessarily the pathway for everybody, but sometimes it's a facilitated experience. I've had experiences too where I'm working with a client one on one and they didn't necessarily book a session for that specific reason, but then a seraphim angel is coming forward. And I'm just like, seraphim angels are coming in, and now we need to talk about seraphim angels because they're coming forward.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where you really have to trust in that divine timing and you can't force it. So just because you say, okay, seraphim, like, come on, if that's not part of the plan quite yet, they're not going to come in just because you ask them to. You know what I mean? To
Yeah, okay.
establish the connection. But once you have that, once it's kind of established, like, okay, we are here and now it's time to do the work together, then it's more of a, I'm going to call on them to support me with this thing. So then phase two, so that was what I just explained is like phase one in terms of when you meet your seraphim angels. Then phase two, once I've met my seraphim angels and once that connection has come in, meaning that the alignment is there, it's time to start working together, it's time to, you know, whatever that frequency is that they're bringing through. Phase two now is, okay, how do I work with it with my seraphim angels now that I've met them?
Mm-hmm.
And the first place is to recognize and understand that they're here to support, like I said before, like they're supporting your development as a healer, which means that some seraphim angels, and this is where there's some similarities with guardian angels in the sense that your seraphim angels will each have a specific role. So some
Okay. Good.
seraphim are like, I'm here to support you specifically with your gifts, or specifically with your channeling abilities,
Mhm.
specifically with your healing abilities, specifically with using your voice, because as a healer, you're meant to be a well-known speaker. So like we need to practice with your voice and your throat. You have like a throat chakra seraphim angel or something. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So like depends on the person. Now this is where it gets very unique and individualized for each person
Right.
because everyone, depending on also how
Your
many
gifts.
seraphim,
Like, yeah.
yeah, and your gift and your purpose. Some people have two, some people have three seraphim,
Mhm.
sometimes four, so it's kind of like depending on now your unique individual path, your seraphim will be personalized to help you reach your fullest potential when it comes to your path.
That is so interesting. So, key to get to know and understand what their roles are so that you get to work with them. As I go through my day, like I sort of know how to work with my guardian angels. I connect with them in the morning. When I remember, I'm not so good at doing that every day. When I remember, I connect with them. And because I know their roles, I can call on them depending on what's happening on my day. And if I need support with one thing, with another, or like that.
Yes,
But with seraphims, it's just, it's different. It's
it's
like,
different.
no idea what to do.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right. Yeah. So, and I feel like that's because it's so much more like individualized, you know
mhm,
what I mean? In the sense of now it's specific to your
to your, what you're
healer.
supposed to do.
Yeah, to what you're here to do.
Okay.
So if, for example, you feel like I'm asking them like, let's share an example with me. Like what, like in a
I have
sense.
maybe I have a
Okay.
an
Yeah.
idea. So because it's coming to mind because there's this runs in my family. I've told that story before. So there's many different types of gifts and things, but there's a lot of like healers in our family, but they became doctors and they use their gifts. So they're actually doctors, like neurologists or whatever, but they are using their gifts as they practice medicine because they're able to see with their mind's eye or whatever. They can see, okay, you have something's wrong with your heart, so we need to fix something there, and then we're going to go in and we're going to find this and we need to fix it. But they need to actually learn medicine to actually be able to operate and do the thing. um,
Right.
there's others that impose hands and also do it like that. I don't know how that works, but like those types of healers and like medicine people, I guess, or anyone with a profession related to healing, would they have
Yes.
an angel? Like if you're a doctor, it's most likely you're put on this earth to heal, physically heal people, so you would have a
Yes.
guard.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And what I'm seeing as you say that is that most likely, like I'll just use the example of like the one, the doctor who can see like the patients coming
Yeah.
in and they're like, oh, there's something with your heart, blah, blah, blah. So the seraphim is supporting that person's ability, like that actual intuitive connection of understanding, like this is what's happening, this is what's going on. They are, how do I say this? Like they help that person's intuitive strength to continue to build and be strong in the trust and everything that's associated with them as a person, as who they are in their profession, to trust in themselves and in their intuition and what they're feeling and whatever that individual experience is with that patient, to be able to then convey whatever message needs to be conveyed,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know?
That's super interesting. And then just like guardian angels, you have multiple seraphims. So we're talking two, generally speaking,
Two,
four.
three, four. Usually
Wow.
three is
Why would
the
you need four? What are you doing here?
I
You
know,
need
right?
four.
I don't know. I don't have four. I just have three, so I can't tell you.
But yeah, I bet you're doing a very, yeah, intense kind of work if you need multiple, like four. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I always wonder, that's it sounds like it's a silly question maybe, but why would you need so many of either guardian angels? Because I've heard you said
Up to
like
five.
five. Like
Yeah, I've seen five.
what's going on with you that you
Yeah.
need all that support?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I don't know the exact answer to like why. To me, it's kind of just like that's just who that person is and the type of support that they need on their journey. Um, but it's knowing that, and sometimes too, what's coming through right now is that, like, let's say one person has five guardian angels, right? And then for another who, let's say, has three guardian angels, but the role that the other two are playing, maybe those roles are being played by a different type of energy. So maybe it's not angelic guide. You know what I mean? So this is thinking of it in the sense of an angelic guide who's there with you in that form of a guardian angel.
Mm-hmm.
Versus for someone else, maybe they have three guardian angels, but then they have two, like, I don't know, dragon guides, or like, I don't know, some other type of energy or being. Maybe they have other whatever kind of
It's
energies that come through
wild to
them.
think about the amount of things that,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
are with you all
Exactly.
the time.
It's
You're
so
never alone.
mind-boggling.
Yeah, exactly. It's mind-boggling, and you'll never be able to, yeah, use the washroom like in privacy. Just, yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
silly things that I. This is again
Yeah.
silly of
Yeah.
me, but honestly, I go into the
Uh,
washroom like, please, everyone, stay out.
yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I need
I
to,
need
yeah, take a shower alone.
privacy right now.
I need space. And then,
Yeah.
funny enough, what I heard, that inner knowing that came through was like, what if you fall in the shower? You're gonna need help. You
Oh
can't be alone. You might
gosh.
need some help in there. So I was like, no.
Touche. You guys got
Yeah,
me. Like,
yeah, you're right. I might
yeah.
need help.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's
that's
right.
just a funny anecdote, but I do tend to do that, and visualizing this, it gets yeah, mind-boggling to think about the amount of beings that are just with you and that support team that you have. Multiple guardian angels, then seraphims, then
Yeah.
guides and ascended masters, and yeah,
And
your
then and then
family
if
members
you
and ancestors, and
yeah,
yeah, and even then if we go up a realm, then we have celestial angels, is that
celestial,
right?
yeah, yeah, like cosmic
Herschel,
angels, Herschel angels, and
there.
probably even more than what I am even aware of. You know what I mean?
There's probably so much more that we don't
Yeah, yeah. And then you can even go even for like the cosmic being, like the celestial beings themselves,
really
like
like.
Arcturians and Pleiadians, and you can just
Wait, so that's, yeah, those are
that's like a
star
whole
seed
other.
origin, and that's kind of your soul family, somewhere you come from.
Yes.
What do you mean they're connect? There's like guides from those.
Well, I wouldn't say
What?
they're
No,
person.
this is new for me.
Actually, that's a good question. No, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet as like a personal guide who is
Okay,
a Palladian,
okay,
but maybe because now that we're talking about soul families, and if they're part of your soul family,
yeah,
then
with us
they
too.
are here to guide you specifically. I don't think that they're always hanging out with you like the way that guardian angels are, because it's such a different frequency. Like those beings are not very much not of this world. So I don't think that they really hang out close to our field unless needed, unless necessary, unless it's part of whatever they're supporting you with. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they could come in and share a message or support you with something, but then they probably kind of move back or move out or however you want to think of it.
Right. Okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's really, yeah, mind-boggling the more you think about it. I've been reading this book about ascended masters, and one of them is that is just coming to mind a lot as we are having this conversation, is it director? And
Mm.
that's the name the author uses to refer to him. And yeah, I think he's connected to those kinds of
Oh,
star seed origin situation. What do
interesting.
you would call them? Civilizations, groups?
Right. I don't know.
I don't
uh,
know. That,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, whatever
Those ones. Like
those ones. Yeah. It's so weird, and there's so much we don't know. I told you about this. Because this is all connected to soul remembrance. and just understanding what you're here for, what your soul is up to, and what's the bigger like plan for you, and who is supporting you on that journey. But making all of these connections and realizing all the support that your soul has to do what you're supposed to do, but you're not doing it alone. You have a starseed
Right.
family, you have angels, you have ascended masters, you have ancestors, you have so many beings are invested in your success.
Yes, exactly. I love the way you put that. Yeah, they absolutely are.
Hmm.
And I think that's such an important part of the journey too. And one of the things that's coming up right now as you're saying that is I've I've seen this in people. I've seen this come up in people where there's this kind of like belief or fear or whatever you want to call it that says, but who am I? Like, am I actually worthy of all this support? Am I worthy of this connection? Or am I good enough for this? Or that kind of fear or line of thought that comes forward. And what they say is absolutely like you were already worthy and good enough. Like you didn't have to prove yourself, even just because you maybe have had a hard time, or this is a hard part of your journey, or things don't feel like they are quite lining up the way that you would want them to. It doesn't mean that you are not worthy of this or are not good enough for this. And I think that's a big thing that comes up for people when it comes to the connection with these angels and these beings who are here to support them. Sometimes it's like this, like, really? Like, you want to help me? Like, I don't know. Like, who am I and
All the
what
time.
my
It's like,
purpose and my mission?
yes, all the time. That's very real. And that was one of my biggest hurdles, even just learning about angels or the trying to, develop clairs and doing practices and things. So it's like, so and so is here to support you. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Archangel, like, what am I doing talking to Michael? I'm not important enough to be talking to God's general. Like, especially
Right.
because of my, yeah, is like biblical, like, I guess image I have. So there's so much reverence attached to these beings. Also, seraphims that are just way out there, so abstract and so connected to source, the divine, whatever. And you're like, what do you mean I have one?
Yeah.
That's just, yeah, just
Yeah.
directly working with me. I'm not worthy of something like that. So yeah, that's definitely, it was one of my biggest hurdles. Also, another hurdle that I think people are going to identify with is that there's just so many things going on, and it's like, I don't want to ignore anyone, I don't want to upset anyone. I want to
Right.
talk to everyone, but it seems like a lot. Even if you're connected in the morning, okay, I'm connecting with my guardian angels, I'm connecting with God, I'm connecting with my soul or whatever. And then, oh, but I left out Mother Mary. So let's.
Yeah.
And then, oh no, my seraphims. But the archangels are here. And then it never stops. Then you're just
Right.
talking to everyone, and it becomes impossible to manage all of those relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
How do
Exactly.
you manage those relationships?
That's a
Again,
great question. Yeah, I think for me, the first thing that I like to do, or I don't know, I think this has just become a natural way in which I manage those relationships, is that I kind of do it as an overall acknowledgement, like, thank you everybody who's here supporting me. I don't necessarily feel like I need to, like, you and you and you and you and you and you and you. It's kind of like, thank you to the collective who's around me, which includes archangels, seraphim angels, guardian angels, like, etc., things like that, like everybody. And then for me, the next kind of step after that is that I also just feel, how do I describe this? It's almost like I feel a certain pull towards certain energies during certain times of my journey. So, for example, the last few months, Mother Mary has been huge for me. Like, personally, I feel like she's come up so much, probably since our podcast that was where we talked about that, and just like that energy has been so present. Same with Jesus. And like that has just been so close to me these last couple months, where so I will then take time to directly speak to them and connect with them, because I just feel such a resonance with them at this moment. Whereas, if we go back 6 months ago, not really necessarily, but there were other angels that came in and that were supporting and things like that. So For me, that would be the thing that I would suggest, is to just pay attention to which beings you feel most resonant with, whether you have a sense or a knowing of like, oh, Archangel Michael or Archangel Gabriel or whoever else is, I'm constantly feeling their presence or wanting to connect with them or whatever, that there's a reason why you feel that,
Yeah.
or your guardian angels or whoever else. And no, also then knowing that that can shift and change as you go on your journey for whatever reason, whether it's because you're focusing on other things in terms of your growth or in terms of your expansion. And
Hmm.
so then the appropriate being will always step forward depending on what your focus is as a soul.
Yeah.
And and that's what I would say too, just like coming back to like what you were asking me earlier about the seraphim and how do I know how to work with them or things like that. Once you have established that connection, and the next step I would say is to then ask them to show you how each of them is there to support you. So kind of asking like, okay, my seraphim are here. How are you here to support me right now? And kind of asking for that. So even if it doesn't necessarily come through immediately right away, they can show you or they can kind of nudge you in a certain direction.
Hmm.
And then as you become aware of that, if you feel pulled towards your seraphim, then that's also how you know to connect with them specifically in that sense. But that might not always be the case, is the other thing. Sometimes, again, like the example that I shared, maybe you're more drawn to Mother Mary right now or someone else, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to work with this being right now because that's where I'm drawn. That's where my attention, that's where there's this like magnetic pull that I can't explain kind of a feeling,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. Yes. You, is there a way in which, again, their energy is different? Does it feel different? What are some of, like, guardian angels use like feathers and numbers and certain like signs and symbols? Do seraphim angels have something like that, like unique to them?
I haven't quite seen anything that specific to them. The only thing that comes up right now as you ask that is I feel more of this like sacred geometry, more of this like
Ooh.
code, like just something. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't want to say, is it abstract? Like, I don't know, but nothing, not like a sign, like the numbers or like the feathers, or nothing like
Yeah.
more, nothing as physical like that, but more so this like sacred geometrical thing is what does come up. Whether
Nice.
it's like you feel, yeah, whether you feel really drawn towards a specific type of sacred geometry, or it could be simple too, like a circle or a triangle or something. You know what I mean? But that is what came through as you were asking that. So
That's so
that's
fun.
your answer.
There you go. Now I know. So it's either Metatron or
Yeah,
seraphims coming through.
exactly. That's right.
Yeah. Okay, that's great to know. And you, because not everyone, I mean, that's great, and those are all great tools, but not all of us, 333, not all of us
Oh my,
have,
I love that.
yeah, not all of us have the necessarily developed the intuitive knowing or are clear as much, So,
Yeah.
what is one way in which we can practice communication with our seraphims? Not everyone has a Christina, in their life. So, do we have a little prayer? Do we have a way to, get through? A little
Yeah, that
activation?
I love that. And yes, I would definitely say prayer is the best way to connect with them, is through just praying to them. You could like say a prayer, for example, Seraphim Angels, thank you for supporting me on my journey as a healer, as a light worker, like whatever kind of role that you know that you're stepping into. And, please continue to guide me so that I can show up as my true self. So any kind of prayer that's directed towards you showing up as your true self, or you remembering your who you are, or you stepping more into your light. Like anything that's related to that thread, you can say a prayer to your seraphim specifically as a way of connecting. And like you said, some for many people, it's kind of like, well, did they hear it? I don't know. Like, do I pray to them again? Like, how do I know that they
Mhm.
are listening to me? And the thing to remember with that is they're always listening to you. And even if you don't receive any sort of validation in this moment, it's trusting that they are supporting you. Like there's so much more going on in the unseen world. So you have to trust that they are supporting you and guiding you. And like I was saying earlier, it's about divine timing. So they're going to step in and guide you in whatever way or hold a space for you in whatever way as divine timing comes into play, you know?
Yeah. Okay, great. And something that also was really interesting to me back when I started connecting with them is that similar to guardian angels, they maybe they're not so human like guardian angels, but they do have like individual identities or traits, and they even have names, right?
Yep,
Just like angels.
they do. Yeah. Yeah. So that's another way that you can begin to differentiate, especially for someone who is, let's say, practicing their clairaudience and maybe doing channel writing, things like that. You can ask for a name, and then at least you know the name that's associated with your seraphim angels. Or on the flip side, if you are practicing more your clairvoyance, or I mean, that's just two examples. I was going to say clairvoyance and understanding what color is associated with your seraphim. But also for those of you who are more clairsentient and you're really more on like your feeling and you can feel the angels around you, they'll also give you, a code of like how to know that they're here. Maybe they're tapping you on the shoulder when it's, that specific seraphim angel or whatever. You get a tingly sensation or whatever the case is where it's your unique way of knowing that they're with you.
That's so funny, so tingly as we say this. But the funny anecdote I wanted to share is that I was asking for a name and I didn't see, I heard a color. So it's a whole journey also to decode
What? That's
how they talk.
amazing.
Yeah, but it's like, what's your name? What's your name? And I heard a color and I'm like, is that your name? No,
Yeah.
that's how I look. I just didn't show you how I look, but I told you how I look. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's a whole thing, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a great example though of how you're going to receive the piece of information that you need to receive, and sometimes you'll receive it in a way that you didn't expect to receive it because you think
Yeah,
that color
totally.
you were going to see it, but no, you heard it.
Still, it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
sure you could have done something else, but yeah, that was just funny to me how
Yeah.
that came out. We've talked about angels perhaps coming in at different times in human history and some of them feeling older than others. Have you perceived anything around seraphim origins or their connection to the divine? Like, we know they're working here to support us, like on our journey as healers and light workers, but what's their background story?
Yeah. Where do you come from and how old are you? No. But
What's your name? How
yeah.
old are you? What's your favorite color?
They like as you were asking that, I never thought about this before, but as you were asking that, I did feel like they have more of this older feel to them, meaning like more ancient, more kind of like they've been around for a while kind of a thing. It feels like they were because the vision that I'm getting right now is back in whatever ancient times when it was kind of like the sacred temples and the priests and the priestesses and just that whole kind of like energy where that connection to, like the mystery schools as they call them and like kind of like ancient knowledge and things like that. It feels like the Seraphim Angels were more like active participants within that in working with people in that way, if that makes sense. It almost feels like they were present, like almost as if just like one step away from being physically there, but it's like they were there working with the priestesses and the people at that time, if that makes sense, you know, whereas now it feels like they have more of a individual guiding role because of the fact that we are in a time and place in our evolution where the focus is about us remembering. Like the focus is really about the remembrance of who we were versus at that time we weren't so concerned about remembering because at that time we already knew who we were and we knew this knowledge and we knew this sacred information. So we were more practicing it and working it. So they were supporting that process. Whereas now it's like we are in a phase of remembrance. So they are more supporting the expansion of ourselves because what's happened is that for so many centuries that energy and that light has been buried and has been dimmed. So right now their role, like if we look at it on a collective level, right now their roles are to help bring back that light so that we can help infuse the planet with that energy. That's how they said, like infusing the earth with this energy and with this light that we hold. You know what I mean? So if you think of it as this is wow, this is what they're showing me right now. Think of it as all of us individual people, we are all souls, we are all beings of light. We hold this light. That light exists within us. However, because of human conditioning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that light is very much dimmed for the most part in some shape or form. Like we're not fully expressed in our light currently right now, you know?
Yeah.
And so what they're saying is that the their role right now is to help bring forward that light within all of us as individuals, to bring through that light, to allow it to shine, to remove and release the things that have dimmed it for many centuries, bring that light back so that we can fully anchor that light into the earth. Like that's how we're going to shift the earth out of this 3D like old paradigm into the new paradigm, is by, like I can't think of another word, like they keep saying anchoring these light frequencies, like anchoring them in, which to me the visual is when you think about like you're placing something into the earth so that it's rooted in the earth. So it's kind of like we are holding these energies and these frequencies, but until they are fully expressed, it's only going to serve so much. So our job as individuals is that we need to become fully expressed so that that light can fully serve to its fullest potential the way that it was meant to.
Wow.
Does that make sense? I don't know. That was like a
I think
crazy
so.
download
As much
that,
as we can.
yeah, as much as we can.
Get
But that
it.
was crazy because that just felt like such a download that came through just
Yeah,
now.
that was amazing. Well, thank you. I'm, and what, okay. So if it's connected to us being fully expressed in our light, bringing that forward and into reality, um, I'm wondering that will require us to remember who we are, what our soul is meant to do here on this earth, and what's our role, and to be able to fully express that. So, my question is, what's the connection between Seraphim Angels and when we work with Akashic records? They must be part of that process and journey as well to help us kind of connect the dots there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great question. And I feel like when I think about the Akashic records, to me, it feels like I don't even know what to call it, like a realm or a space or a place where you can connect to receive knowledge and information and understanding. With working with the Seraphim Angels, their role is really about the integration and the embodiment. So, yes, they can help you receive the information as well. You know, they can
Okay.
definitely share, but their role is more so in the sense of, okay, you know this now. Now let's put it into action or put it into play so that it actually starts to show up.
Okay, it's two different things. One thing is remembering what you're doing here and having that clarity, and then they help you embody
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. Because you could know that you are a light worker, that you're a healer, but then are you embodying the energy and the light that you're here to embody, or are you repeating the old patterns of the old paradigm, and are you living in that frequency or in that timeline, so to speak?
Yeah, and I
You
think to
know?
some degree we're all just, if you identify as part of this group, I think you just have this feeling that you came here to do something, but is that like there's something I need to remember, and it's
Yeah.
almost like see it, but I can't, and it's like that. What is it? So
Yes.
that, I think it starts with that clarity and that like, oh, this is it, and then from then on, they come online and
Yeah,
they help you
exactly.
journey when you're
That's exactly
ready.
it. Yep.
That's amazing. That's so interesting. Okay, name, age, color. How do they look? How do they speak? What are they doing? Am I missing something?
I don't
Yeah,
think so. I
I don't
think we
think so.
covered.
We've covered our bases here. I think so. I mean, of course, the listeners can tell us if we missed
Yeah.
something and if they want to know something more about Seraphim Angels. But it's great to humanize them in terms of just not seeing them as, you know, wings with eyes and things.
Yeah,
It's just such an abstract image.
exactly.
Although they do have that sacred geometry vibe, which tells me that, you know,
Yeah.
that image didn't came out of nowhere. An ancient
Right.
human had a vision or a connection or something that led them to like represent them like that. So that must have come out of something.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
but yeah, that they're more relatable than we think.
Yes. Yes, that's a great way of putting it. They're more relatable. The other thing that I feel about their essence is that they are a bit more like subtle. Like I feel like the guardian angels are much more kind of louder in their presence in the sense that they make themselves more obvious, whereas I do feel like seraphim angels are a bit more like in the background, for lack of a better way of
Yeah.
saying it. In some ways, not all the time, not always, but they seem a bit more, I don't know, mysterious. Like that, like they're more kind of like mystical, more kind of in like that is their essence versus guardian angels feel much more, I don't know, like more here, more present.
Yeah. Closer,
Yeah.
more human.
Yeah, exactly. More
As
human.
human as they can get. Yeah. That's super interesting. And yeah, now I want to go back and, try and establish that connection again. I'm so curious.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So yeah, I think just to recap, the number one thing is to just set that intention of like, okay, I'm on my path and I'm ready to connect with my seraphim angels in divine timing. I'm open to it. Thank you for being there and for being on my journey. And whenever you step in, I'm open and ready, kind of a thing is step one. Step two is once that somehow comes into your awareness, whether you're guided to it, whether they come through meditation, dream, channeling, whatever way that they come in for you. The next step after that is to then ask for how they're here to support you. Like, what is their role? Like, how are you supporting me today? Or not today, on my path, So, like I said before, examples might be specifically with developing your gifts or with your developing your speaking, your voice, your writing, whatever it is that you're here to do. They're
Yeah.
here to support you in that way. Asking for that kind of clarity, knowing that the clarity might not come right away, it might come over time, and just
Yeah.
trusting the process with that. Asking for names, for color, like how to distinguish them. That's kind of a thing where it's just like you have to trust in how it unfolds and how it shows up uniquely for you. There's no one formula to get that answer. It's going to show up
Yeah.
differently for everybody. And then after that, it's just trusting in how you are being guided to call on them or, work with them and just knowing that they're there supporting you in the background anyways, regardless, because now they're kind of there and they'll come in, they'll be there kind of, as necessary for your journey.
I
So,
think that last bit is really important. Like, you don't need to know for
yeah,
them to do their job. So
yeah,
I think also if you don't establish that connection, communication, whatever, just trusting that you don't need to, and it's fine, but they're there doing whatever they need to do for you. And yeah, don't be disappointed
Yeah.
with that. Like it's maybe that's part of the ritual. Like whatever you're doing, just let's
Yeah.
do whatever I need, and whatever you're doing, I trust that that is
Yeah.
divine,
Yeah.
divinely guided, and being okay with that if they don't necessarily talk to you or
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, let us know what your questions are. If you have had an experience with Seraphim Angels, let us know in the comments below. Questions, all that good stuff. Yeah. Is there anything else for us to,
That's it.
for us to
Out
ask
of
our listeners?
questions, can you believe we got
How
to
is
the
that
end of my
possible?
questions?
Who are you and where did Louisa go? Oh, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you as always, everyone, for your support, for your love, and to be able to deepen into these conversations with you all. We have so much fun doing this. So if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, rate it on the podcast, and make sure to share with your friends and family.
That's right. We can't wait to hear from
Amazing.
you. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.